Good day, dear friends. It's the 14th of March. And today I'm going to talk to you about Georgia. No, not the state of Georgia. The Republic of Georgia. Much more interesting in this case. Though I'd love to see the Confederacy back up in Georgia. That Georgia being part of that. But that's all aside in my musings. So, what is happening in Georgia? First of all, the Georgian government dared, because it takes some kahunas, for a government that's basically for the last 30 years, well, definitely for the last almost 20 years, that's owned lock, key, and barrel by the U.S. government and various U.S. NGOs, which is the U.S. government by another name. They dared to try to pass a law on foreign agents. There were two laws. The Georgian and the American law. The Georgian law, which the American propaganda has named the Russian law, is actually, it is a copy of the Russian law, is actually much softer than the American law on foreign agents, Terra 1938. That's still very much in action. It's a great way to repress anybody that has any contacts with anyone that the U.S. government doesn't like. They don't have to work for them, but they'll get shoved under that category and arrested. And arrested for not paying the right taxes, by being not being registered right. So this law, by the Georgian Dream Party, which is the ruling party, would have forced anybody getting more than 20% of their income, well, organization-wise, more than 20% of their income from foreign sources to register as a foreign agent. The American version would have also enforced any civilians. What I'm saying is anybody in the private sector who's not a corporate organization or a business to equally register. So any freelancers, things like that. So the Russian law is actually much softer than the American law. But so the majority of the parliament voted for in the first reading. You see, unlike America, most Republican systems actually require multiple readings of the law. And multiple readings, I'm not talking about here, have some papers, take them home and read over. I'm talking about before quorum of parliament, they start with the first letter and they end with the last letter. And they read the entire document. There are these American omnibills of 10,000 pages that nobody has read at all, except for a couple of pages that their lobbyists handed to them to put into the bill, even if they read that. Though I have my doubts, they even, these American geriatrics even bother reading that part. They just take the money. Their job is to hand deliver the papers into these omnibills and vote yay. 10,000, 20,000 pages of laws that nobody has bothered to read before they get signed into law. The American democracy, as we know it. Yeah, okay, whatever. Tell me some more stories, why don't you? Little Red Robin Hood, Santa Claus, and American democracy. Oh, and the Easter Bunny. And American democracy. So anyways, so what does America do? Because, most of the Georgian, a good chunk of the Georgian government is on the American payroll. Or at least on the EU payroll. Hell, even the president of Georgia. Get this. The president of Georgia has Georgian roots. She's not Georgian per se, as in born in Georgia. She was born in France, served 20 years in the French Foreign Ministry, retired from that, draws a pension from the French Foreign Ministry. Doubt she gave that up. Saakashvili, the American governor of Georgia, he gave her citizenship when she was ambassador to Georgia from France. And now she's president of France with double citizenship. And she's sitting in America and pushing on for a revolution against her own government, who doesn't want to do what she says because, she's not, it's not a presidential heavy system now. It used to be. Now it's a parliamentary heavy system. She's basically, anything the U.S. and the EU says, we will do, including open a new war front. And that's what the U.S. wants. They want Georgian blood in rivers on the Russian against Russia. Because guess what, Georgians? You're meat. And Georgians in Georgia, U.S., you're also meat. You're just a little higher quality meat because, you're right there, not that far from Washington. So we have to keep you a little bit sated as opposed to all the other biomaterial around the world that we can just exterminate as we feel free, especially if it reaches our goals of world domination. Welcome to the satanic states of America. That's what we should need to start calling the United States, the satanic states of America. No master higher than Satan in the U.S. It hasn't been for decades. Anyways, I digress, and I apologize for that. So, we go back to Georgia. So, the good thing about having NGOs, or all foreign paid, of course, is they can bring lots of people out those streets. So, they came out in the streets, and the Georgian government makes Yanukovych's government look solid and strong. Yanukovych's government lasted 3 months under mass American pressure before the U.S. put Nazis into power in Ukraine. The Georgian government doesn't look like it's going to last a month. So this mass came out. Then they start with a little dancing and putting love stickers on the shields of the cops, and then quickly proceed to throwing Molotov cocktails. Straight out of your color revolution playbook. I mean, Americans don't get very creative. They got one model that more or less works, and they try to do it everywhere the same. Strong governments have figured this out and just crushed those revolutions paid for and sponsored by America or one of the oligarchs that owns America right off the bat. Weak governments, especially weak governments, are basically in the pocket of the U.S. already, that dare to show some kind of chaponess and then they're in their independence. They get folded up pretty quickly. So anyway, so they backed off from this law. They democratically read through and passed in the first reading. There's one or two more readings, depending on the government. In Russia, it's 3 readings. So yeah, because we are tyrannical, unlike America that never reads and just votes. That's democracy. Power to the people. Well, the people with the money, anyways. And screw the rest of you meat puppets, wage slaves. Anyways, I digress again. I'm sorry, I just keep digressing because there's so much to laugh and say, in the direction of the wage slaves of the West, the free, full of rights wage slaves of the West. And the moment they come out, they get beaten like a red-headed stepchild. Just look at Holland last weekend. Man, sicking the dogs on women, on old women, beating the crap out of everybody. That's what I call democracy. Real democracy, not that fake Russian democracy. Oh no, real democracy. Beat the shit out of everyone. So anyways, as I digress again, the Georgian opposition, which is mostly young people that don't remember the war in 2008, because most of them were still in Pampers and weren't even a twinkle in their mama's eyes. So they all go off and they start this little revolution, plus all the old revolutionaries from Saakashvili's time when he was making lots of money for them as the pseudo-dictator of Georgia. They're out in the streets, and the parliament and the government backs off on the law and says, we'll vote much later, we'll think about it later. Then they release everybody they arrested for throwing Molotov cocktails and, it's trying to storm the parliament the next day. Of course, that appeasement just works so well with fanatical nut jobs. I mean, for God's sakes, they're screaming Slava Ukraina in the middle of Georgia on Rastaveli Street in front of the parliament. There's no mention of Georgia this or Georgia that. It's all Ukraine. So, all those Ukrainian refugees that ran away from the war that they helped start, all that scum, pond scum, of course, is getting money from the U.S., so they're starting a nice little revolution in Georgia. They won't stick around when that war starts, of course, because they're pond scum. They're parasites that they'll run to the next country and try to feed off that country until the U.S. government pays them a little more to start a new revolution. Because that's what parasites do. They kill the host in the end. And then there's the Georgian parasite morons that are also screaming. By the way, all these students are also screaming to end conscription for the yearly conscription, but to start a war with Abkhazia and Ossetia, which are under Russian protectorate, which means start a war with Russia. I mean, come on. How many brain cells don't you have? What the fuck do you morons think is going to happen once that war starts? You got a country of 3.5 million people. Even if you get 2/3 of them backing your moronic idea, and most of them won't get a choice because they'll get shot in the back if they don't, just like Ukraine does. and any other democracy of the West. Demonocracy of the West. What do you think is going to happen to you morons? We're going to exterminate you on those prepared borders that are already bunkered up. And when you come running out, that Georgian army that exists now is going to run out real quick. Because nobody's going to fuck around with you. Not with a second front. You're going to get slammed. You're going to get slammed like a whore on Saturday night. And then, when that army gets exterminated, all you little dumb fucks are going to get rounded up, handed an AK, and thrown as meat, because that's all you are. Most of you think something high. I'm speaking English to you, Georgians, because most of you don't speak Russian anymore, but you all want to speak English. So here's reality for you. You're meat. A good chunk of you won't be alive by this time next year. You'll be rotting on the hills and countryside of Georgia, Abkhazia, and the border, or southern Ossetia. Or if you're really good and smart, you'll either run or surrender. Because unlike your owners, we Russians don't murder, rape, and pillage. And we don't do it to POWs either. Unlike your owners. Unlike what you do. You're very lucky we're not Europeans. Because if we were Europeans, most of Europe wouldn't exist right now. Germany would be an exterminated past tense race. We would have killed every last damn little crop. There wouldn't have been one child left if we were anything like you Europeans. London would have been a damn bomb crater a long time ago, and should have been. God knows the world would have been a better place for it. And there'd be less treasures stolen all over the world too. But I digress, I'm sorry. I do that a lot these days. So anyways, so the Georgians are out for the Georgian morons. I'm not talking the Georgian government, which actually realizes quite well what's going to happen. And they're doing everything they can to save their own people, even though, I mean, looks like at least half, if not the majority of them, have gone stupid. Ego and stupid are very bad things to mix. So the Georgian government is trying everything it can to keep peace. Never mind the economy is booming from all the extra trade going through Georgia and with Georgia. Going from Turkey up into Georgia. So the economy is booming, but these guys want to do the American thing and, kill their own economy, start a war, and exterminate their youth. Because, what else do you need to do with biomatter? Use it. And then let it breed slowly back and then use it again until you finally exterminate it and get that, get the population down that way. Yeah, I'm talking about you. We'll watch how many of your mothers are going to be crying. How many of your mothers that are out there with their kids right now are going to be crying within the end of this year over their dead little boys, girls, and anything else that moves if they are alive themselves. So congratulations. They're more likely going to be... There's also a big problem in Georgia that there might be a military coup because most of the officer class is American-trained, American-bred, basically, propagandized, and they're going to do whatever they're told by Washington, not by their own government. America does that in lots of nations. It trains. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. It trains up these officers. You think these officers are still going to be loyal to the government that they started with? No, they get brainwashed fully. And they are shown the good life, and they're no longer part of the government that they actually are serving. Matter of fact, another thing that the United States does is the CIA will hire these officers. They'll hire a colonel and then make him a captain in the CIA, captain rank or captain equivalent rank. This way, he's actually a foreign agent. I mean, out and out foreign agent. And if anything goes to shit, he's got a way out of the country to the U.S. So they're basically corrupting and buying out the government from the inside out. America and the West loves doing that. The more corrupt everybody is, the easier it is for them to deal with these people. They don't want honest government. One of the reasons they, for example, despise Lukashenko. He keeps a very tight lid on corruption. And America is nothing but about corruption, internally and externally. Look at the banks that are failing. You think they're failing because they're all honest and smart? No, they're failing because they were stupid and corrupt. And that's just how it is. So the Bosnian Serbs, God bless their heart, in all the meaning of that, in the right meaning of that, they decided to do the same thing, just to make a point. So they pushed into parliament in Bosnia an exact copy of the law, of the American law on foreign agents. And guess what? God bless their heart, in all the negative meanings of that. And if you're not from the South, you wouldn't understand, probably. The U.S. government, being the morons that they are, sounded off how evil and unconstitutional this law is. You know, the one that's been in America since 1938. Well, they could have just shut the hell up as usual, but in the U.S. government, there's this thing called verbal diarrhea. As soon as a microphone's placed in front of anybody up there, they all start to sing. They got to say something, and boy, do they say a lot. But yeah, the U.S. State Department, like morons, have stated that this law is anti-human, anti-constitutional, anti-democratic. Yeah, the American law. So all you serfs in the U.S. living under the anti-democratic, anti-constitutional law since 1938, know your place. So that's the clown theater of the West these days. God bless. And if you people wish to come to Russia, you still can. And Americans can come as tourists. And through that tourist visa, you can also immigrate. It's a 3-year multi-entry tourist visa. It takes about 10 days to get and about $80. Most everybody can afford that. Money transfers, there are companies that do this. Companies I've used for friends that'll transfer money. Bitcoin, any cryptocurrency is a great way to transfer money. The U.S. government isn't exactly thrilled with that, but you know that the U.S. government's not thrilled with anything that doesn't let them steal. You're blind. Investments here are huge, plain huge, and our economy is growing. Unlike say, the West, no matter how much it massages its numbers. So yes, that's how it is. God bless. Keep safe. And if you're not ready to fight for your rights, but you want to live Christian and free, for example, no, you can always come to Russia. If you have the cojones. Cheers.